Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and we're back today after 1 week off. But we're going to continue on with some of our lists here, some of our top 5 lists as we get to, actually the draft is next week. So next week we'll talk about draft. This will be our last probably list for a while. So we thought we would do our top 5 deep sleepers this time around. So last episode we did our sleepers, which not that far down the list, but today we're going way down the list with deep sleepers. So I think what did we, it was top 60 or lower currently ranked at running back on Fantasy Pros. Did we say 60 or 70 at wide receiver?
70.
70 at wide receiver and like 40 at tight end. So we're going way down the list, trying to pick some guys that maybe could have some kind of path to some sort of relevance next year. And we've done pretty decent. I mean, I wouldn't say decent. If we hit one guy on this list, to me, that's doing decent, I would say, right? And we've hit at least like one guy a year. We've done pretty okay on this, with getting at least, somebody that becomes some kind of fantasy relevant. So I'm happy if like one of these guys becomes good for like 2 games. I call that good. That's pretty much what this list means. But it's always fun to just kind of try to see if you can pick out some guys way down the list. So let's start it off. We have 5 players each. Were you able to come up with 5?
Yeah, I got 5.
All right. So we'll start with your number 5, Jeff. And what do you have?
My number 5 is I picked a player who might be relevant, and more so if an injury occurs. But there's a reason behind it. So I picked Justin Jackson from the Chargers as my number 5 guy. He looked good when he had to play last year. Obviously, they run the ball a lot, and even more so, they run a lot in the red zone, why Melvin Gordon gets so many touchdowns. And Melvin Gordon finally kind of broke down a little bit last year. He is uber productive, right? But if you look at 2016, 2017, just rushes alone, he had 254 and then 284. I mean, that is a lot of wear and tear on your body. 2018, he had 175 and he only played 12 games there. So it does seem like he might be getting, a little more injury prone, a little more bumps and bruises. So not only if the injury actually occurs, but maybe they want to spell him, take him out a little more, give Justin Jackson a little more of a chance. And I think that because of the way they run in the red zone, he might be, worthwhile because of that.
I thought about him. He didn't make my list, but he was one of the guys I was thinking about. Because I guess the thing is, Austin Eckler is not going to be the every down back if Gordon were to go down again. I think Jackson's the guy who's going to get most of the work. And, he showed he showed enough last year that he could play. They're going to keep looking at him. He had a decent stretch there where I think he became a free agent pickup for us on one of the waiver wire episodes there, probably, right around fantasy playoff time. And probably the week he had, I think, 16 carries, didn't really do much out of it, 16 for 58 and a touchdown, but that was fantasy relevant enough. So yeah, I thought about him. He didn't quite make my list, but yeah, Melvin Gordon, he could get injured again, and if he does, it's going to be Jackson who comes into a good offense. And that's kind of what I have a player similar to that in my list later on of who's going to step into a good offense.
Right, and that's why he's number 5 too. I'm not overly excited about him. I think he's a good player. I think he is a very, very good backup. But yeah, the situation, just something that you want to keep an eye on.
So I'll go with my number 5, and I went with a tight end, my only tight end that made the list. So who I picked for this one is currently the 52nd ranked tight end. It's Tyler Kroft from Buffalo now. So they released Charles Clay. He's gone. There's nobody else. There's literally nobody else. Kroft, he got hurt last year, so he didn't really do much. But in his 3rd season, in 2017, he came on a little bit, 42 catches, 400 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was looking, pretty decent. And last year, not much happened with him, who knows why, but he's right now the guy in Buffalo. So there could be something there.
Yeah, and he was on Cincinnati last year, correct?
Yep.
So he was kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place because
he got hurt pretty early in the year.
They did have 3 guys, even though all of them were getting injured. But you do have Uzama, I believe how you pronounce it. But anyway, they still had him. They liked him better, and that's why Kroft kind of got iced out. But yeah, I mean, he was very serviceable when they needed him to be.
He was, and that his third season was pretty good. He really was, was pretty decent there. So, Buffalo they kind of think that too. They signed him to a 3-year deal worth $18 million, I believe, and I read it could go up to 21 based on some incentives. That's not a nothing deal. They think, I mean, NFL money, yeah. You can't always take it like 18 million doesn't really mean anything. They could release
everyone's
him.
getting paid now.
But it's something. It is something. They wanted him. They didn't. They released Charles Clay. They signed him to So here's 3 years, $18.75 million. They think something of him to do that. So I think it's an interesting, possibility that he'll become relevant. I believe, and there's enough there where he hasn't reached his top level probably yet. He's only 26 years old. So the tight ends take a while sometimes. And last year, who knows what would have happened if he didn't get hurt. So, but I'm going to go Tyler Kroft, my one tight end on the list at number 5. So who do we have for you, number 4?
Number 4, and this is a little bit of a cheat because we just found out he got signed. And Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a cheat because he'll kind of fly up the boards. But obviously he's been kind of slowly trending down, and I get that he's an older player. I think he still has a little bit left in the tank, and New England is going to be the team to find out if that is true. And that is one of those teams where, hey, they don't have a big wide receiver. You saw what they were trying to do with Josh Gordon. Obviously, Josh Gordon is, heads and shoulders more athletic at this point. So yeah, I'm gonna throw him if he stays here, which he'll probably go higher. But yeah, he's worth the look. You throw him on a team with Tom Brady, and you find out if he still has anything left. So that's why he makes number 4.
I don't know if he does. Honestly, I don't know if he does. So
time to find out. What do you have left? You have Edelman.
Got my number 4 player, Philip Dorsett.
Okay, well, you have Dorsett and Edelman, but they got rid of Hogan, and you don't have Gronk anymore. Those, there's plenty of throws to go around.
So yeah, Dorsett's my number 4.
That's a good
ranked 91 currently. He was already ranked below Thomas before Thomas was even signed. So Dorsett, it's just I don't know if what Thomas has left. He's worth a flyer for sure, but Dorsett, I don't know what they re-signed him. They did re-sign him. He was a former first-round pick.
Yeah, I want you to. I really want to know what you think about this guy because he is one of them that, even to this day, you're kind of hoping, but he's never put it out on the field.
He showed a little bit last year. Like, okay, maybe the guy can play a little bit, and maybe that'll open up for him. I don't know. I just think there is talent there. I feel like there is talent there, and maybe New England. They're bringing him back again. Maybe they think there's something there. Plus, this is just deep sleeper, so it's we're the flyer.
Let's be honest, like especially with Chris Hogan, right? Like he should have done a lot better than he did there. Yeah. And if you think Dorsett is better and he slides into that role and he can do more with it, then he will be a viable option, to at least have on your bench.
Yep.
So it's worth to find out.
Well, I mean, Dorsett early on in the year, he looked really good at the beginning of the year. He had like 7 catches, 66 yards, a touchdown, but then they got Josh Gordon. Edelman came back. They obviously had Gronk. But no more Gronk, no more Josh Gordon. I guess, yeah. This is going to depend on Demaryius Thomas. This is going to be what Demaryius Thomas, I wouldn't be shocked. This is a guy who he could come in and contribute or he could be cut. He's one of those type, with the Patriots, he could easily, you see these guys that come in, they think they're going to do something, they just get cut. It's very possible. So what Dorsett does is a lot of it's going to depend on how much Thomas is used, I think. So I think one of those guys will become relevant. One of them will. I don't know which one, but someone has to catch the ball other than Edelman and Edelman.
Yeah. There really isn't a whole lot there. Yeah. So you're wondering if they will go out and draft someone, which changes the whole, the whole dynamic.
They might, yeah.
And usually they don't. I mean, like they don't really go out and get these big name wide receivers, unless you're Randy Moss. So, they pick up guys that are kind of past their prime or guys they don't really have to pay, and they know they can plug them in. So I don't know. It'll be interesting because this is the first time that they're not going to really have the go-to guy of Gronk, which definitely changes the outlook of the offense.
Well, I guess they did just sign Austin Seferian-Jenkins, so
that's very interesting as well.
So maybe someone's going to get some more catches. We'll see who it is. All right.
Don't know who.
So who do you got number 3?
Number 3, and the more and more I looked into him, the more and more I kind of got more intrigued by him. So he's one of them that passed through my radar, and now I'm kind of back to him. And this is Jalen Richard. So from Oakland, he did get re-signed. Right now, it looks like he should be the number 2 behind Crowell. And looking at his numbers from last year, obviously it was a little more of a crowded backfield, and he was still kind of, grinding it out between him or DeAndre Washington. I believe Washington is still there, if I'm correct, but they don't have the muscle hamster, and they don't have Lynch anymore.
Yeah.
So obviously those guys were taking a lot of carries. When he did play, he looked pretty good. He is a small back, but he had 55 rushes for 259 yards. That's 4.7 yards per carry. He only had 1 touchdown. But what I really love about him, and I think that he actually will be worthwhile to, store on your bench right away to find out how they use him, because he had 68 receptions last year for 600 yards, no touchdowns. But if they actually increase that, especially since Crowell will probably be the bell cow on the ground, if they use him as that wide receiver, he could absolutely kind of be a PPR darling, or, and even for just conventional kind of point setups, I think that he might be able to win you a few weeks if he can get in the end zone here and there.
He's interesting. I don't know if I buy into Crowell at all. And I'll actually talk about that in a little bit. Why I don't buy into Crowell, but it doesn't affect Richard. He's a different type of guy. He's going to have some value. And yeah, he is way down there on these ranks. Way down there. So, yeah, I never know what to think about those guys. Him and
I don't either. That's
Washington.
And when I looked into him again, that was because I kind of fell in love with Washington for a little bit, and then I fell in love with him, and trying to figure out who was going to take over.
I've liked Richard a little better, I think. And his yards per carry has been really good over his career when he gets a chance. So he's never a guy who's going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, he's definitely going to spell people.
But he's going to catch the ball, and that's all they really need him to do. If they put him in that role, he's going to become a lot more valuable, and a lot more valuable than what he's ranked. So he doesn't need to be the main running back, because I don't think he will be.
And what I like, too, is the 68 receptions was with Gruden there, right? That was with the new coach, with the new system, if you will. So if they continue with that, I like his odds.
So my number 3 is going to be DJ Chark.
He was on my short list.
Second round pick, didn't do very well last year. He had a lot of mistakes as a rookie. He just wasn't very good. The guy's so athletic though, and he has the chance there. Maybe with Nick Foles at quarterback, this is a guy they're going to want to use. They have yes, they have D.D. Westbrook, they have Keelan Cole, they don't even know they probably have other people I can't remember right now. They have guys, but I think he's the one who could break out from this group if it's anybody. So I would give him another shot. He's only second-year guy. He was a second-round pick. He's going to have some kind of shot. Marquise Lee will still be there probably too. I mean, again, they're probably going to have 1 million receivers. But they signed Chris Conley. That's right. My God, what are they doing? I think he is a guy, though, who can break out of the pack. If anybody, none of those other guys can. They're not. None of them will. They're just all okay. He is. If anybody could do it, it would be him. Will he do it? No idea, but that's why he's ranked 80th.
Yeah.
And he's just a deep sleeper.
I do. I like his. Really comes down to his build, right? He's just very tall and he's quick.
Yep.
But for the exact reasons you kind of said, I don't know what Jacksonville is doing half the time when it comes to wide receivers. They're always overstocked. They're all kind of similar, so you don't really give anyone a fair shake. And to be quite honest, it should be a plus, obviously, that Foles is there. But the last time he was really on his own, he didn't look that good. So It scared me off of the whole situation. But you're right. DJ Chark is someone to at least keep an eye on.
One of the things, though, about him that is a little bit of a worry is he never really had any production even in college.
He's just kind of an athlete.
He didn't do anything his first 2 years at all. His junior year, he had 26 catches for 466, 3 touchdowns. His senior year, he had 40 for 874 and 3 touchdowns. The yards per catch was amazing. And it's all about his speed and his athleticism, and that's why people, want to see what he can do. Yeah, because he's 6'4", and I don't even know what his he ran a 4.3440. So he
is fast.
And so that's what people are just hoping, and that he is. Yes, I was reading a little bit here, and he caught his first pass in week 2 on the same play he fumbled it, actually, on his first catch. That's some of the stuff that happened with him. But if he could put it together, this guy could be really, really good. So that's why, hey, he's a deep sleeper for me. All right, so we're going to get to the top 2 here. No, we don't have any overlapping yet. We might not. This is an interesting list.
It's a strange one.
But we'll see. Who's your number 2?
Number 2, okay, I had talked about him before, but he still fit within the parameter, so I had to put him on here. But Albert Wilson from Miami.
Yep.
He's a guy that I really like. Tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen with him or Miami. But if I had to kind of put money on someone stepping up, it would be this guy. And he looked really good. And he was on the Chiefs for 4 years, and then he went to Miami. And he only got in for 7 games, only started 3 of those. But when he did, he was incredibly productive. So he went 26 receptions, 391 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he has the big play ability. Obviously, he's not going to be the big guy, but I think slots, short routes, crossing routes, anything like that, they're going to try to get this guy the ball in open space. And I think that he might be a great way to get the offense going when you can't just dial deep to, Stills or Parker,
Parker,
So, yeah. So I like this guy. It will be really interesting if Miami can get their act together. But he's someone to definitely look into.
I mean, he was on a pretty decent pace last year. He was going to probably have 60 catches and 900 yards or so last year, probably get close to 1,000 if he kept going better. So that would have been a decent little season. And his touchdowns in 7 games, he had 4 of them. So there's some numbers there. There's some, definitely some interest, especially if Parker doesn't do anything, which at this point, I don't bank on Parker doing anything. So yeah, Wilson is interesting for sure. I think.
And also the year before when he was with the Chiefs, just to put in perspective as well, because obviously 4 touchdowns out of 26 receptions is, you think, oh, that's high. But even when he was with them, he did catch it 42 times, which is obviously more. But he had 3 touchdowns then too. So he does have a nose for the end zone. It's not like he came out of nowhere on broken plays. He definitely can put the burners on. And, that's it's just a different weapon than Miami usually has.
All right, so my number 2. This is where I'm going to go with the running back. It's Malcolm Brown from the Rams. So I don't personally think there's a worry with Todd Gurley.
Don't do this.
I really don't. I really don't think there's a worry. But if there is, C.J. Anderson's gone. The Lions signed C.J. Anderson. They also tried to sign Malcolm Brown, but the Rams matched it. So the Rams didn't just let him go. Well, yeah, the Lions signed him on a deal, and they matched it. So he's the number 2. I think he's ahead of John Kelly. John Kelly's the other backup running back, but Brown's ahead of him. And he looked, I don't even think he looked pretty decent when he played last year. He had 4.9 yards per carry. I don't think that's going to, I think no matter who the running back is there, they'll be good. Really. If Gurley, if there's more to, maybe if there's an issue with Gurley's knee and Malcolm Brown is the guy who steps in, this is going to be the biggest free agent pickup one week. He will be by far. The waiver wire, he'll be number 1. If Gurley ever went down, it's going to be Malcolm Brown. So there it is. If I'm picking him because I think it's not buying it. No, I don't buy the Todd Gurley crap because all these people that rank him low now, in the season, there's no way they can pass him up. He's going to be one of the top guys. He'll be fine. But Malcolm Brown, though, he definitely has, there's a path there for him. It's if that knee is actually a concern. And they haven't signed anybody else. We'll see what they do in the draft next week. That's the draft is a big thing for Gurley, too. If they draft somebody early, not first round, I won't draft somebody first round, but if they draft somebody second or third round, we might be like, is something up? That's where I might start to get a little worried. But Malcolm Brown right now is going to be my guy. So,
all right.
You just don't buy the Gurley stuff. I don't either.
No, I mean, I don't buy. I mean, let's be honest. Like, if any primetime running back like that goes down, I mean, it's the same reason everyone picked up like Edmonds last year, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I do. I just don't like to feed into the hysteria of, the conspiracy of Gurley. But I do get your point. I mean, I put Justin Jackson up there, so I can't really.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he'll be the one that if Gurley goes down, he's one of the best guys who can step in. It's just the
right.
situation he would be in is going to be great.
It would be an amazing situation.
So, yep, he's my number 2. So, who is your number 1?
Number 1, I'm going wide receiver. I'm going Seattle. I'm going David Moore.
I looked at him. I thought about that one. Didn't go with it.
Wow, we did not overlap at all.
No, we did not.
So, the reason I'm picking David Moore is, first of all, Russell Wilson is amazing. He's now, the highest paid quarterback again or something?
Yeah, he's going to get $35 million a year.
It's crazy. But I think that David Moore, after last year, I mean, he didn't have an enormous year, but when he really started to put together at the end of the year, he did well. So he had 26 receptions for 445 yards and 5 touchdowns, which once again, touchdown production seems to, that's over what you probably shouldn't be able to do in 26 receptions. But at the same time, he started really putting it together. And obviously, Russell Wilson is not going to stop throwing the ball. And you have an aging Doug Baldwin, and you also have a very injury-prone Lockett, which obviously had a breakout year last year. So other than those two guys, if either of them go down or miss time, this guy is going to be the number 2 wide receiver, I believe. So because of that, and they throw it so damn much, that I absolutely think that this guy is in line for a, to build on last season. And man, even if he doubles last year's, which he really should be able to, all of a sudden it's kind of the same thing. You have 1,000 yards this literally, if he doubled what he did last season, and he really didn't start that many games, but he would have had 52 receptions for 900 yards and 10 touchdowns, which his stat line won't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still something to get excited about, especially if you're a Seattle fan, because he's kind of one of these, I don't even know, just a late round gem. I think he was drafted in the 7th round.
Yeah,
right?
He's a 7th round guy.
And he pretty much came out. I mean, it took him 1 year, but his second year he came out and he actually performed, which is great to see.
And it was a really good stretch of games is where he had, right? It's like 8-game stretch where he was really pretty good. Nothing towards the end a little bit, but I mean, what if Doug Baldwin's not healthy? What if Doug Baldwin can't come back?
Right.
And he showed enough sign like that. It's funny, the last big game he had, after that, they gave him nothing. But he had 4 for 103 and a touchdown. Looked pretty good. So I like that one. I saw his name up there again. That was another one I thought about, but didn't pick him. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility for sure with him. But my number 1 is going to be a running back. He plays for the Oakland Raiders. So his name's Chris Warren. Chris Warren III, actually. His dad, Chris Warren, I guess, the second or junior or whatever, was a 3-time Pro Bowler for the Seahawks back in the 90s. So Chris Warren, he didn't play last year. He was, I don't know if it was a real injury, but it was one of those where he got injured at the end of the preseason after a good preseason because they probably didn't want to put him on the roster and they found an injury for him. But apparently he did have knee surgery, I guess. So maybe there was something. But he was the best running back in preseason last year. Almost 300 yards in preseason. He looked good. He really looked good. And I was starting to think about him as like a dynasty pickup. And then they didn't put him on the roster for the year, but they kept him. I think he was an undrafted free agent, but really looked good. And I don't buy into Isaiah Crowell at all. I don't think Crowell's that good. Like you talked about Richard a little bit ago, but I think that's a different player. They almost don't play the same position. You know what I mean? Like Richard is still going to be an impact player in a different role, but Chris Warren, I just have a feeling he's going to be better than Isaiah Crowell and overtake Isaiah Crowell. I don't know why I keep going back to this. Just I've been thinking about this guy since last year. I really liked what he did in preseason, and I just think there's a possibility if he gets a shot that he can be better. Let's see, against the Lions last year, that's probably why, because I probably saw some of that preseason game. 13 carries for 86 yards against the Lions. And then that was in the first week of preseason. And in the second week of preseason, he had 18 carries for 110 and a touchdown against the Rams. Yes, I know he wasn't probably going against starters, but he looked really good. And no Marshawn Lynch, no Doug Martin. I don't really buy in Isaiah Crowell. And Richard's going to be different role. I think Chris Warren might actually have a shot at something here. So I'm going to go Chris Warren. And I hope I hit big on this one. We'll see. I should go pick him up in our Dynasty League as I'm saying this right now. But yeah, there we go. That's my number one, Chris Warren. So if this one hits, you know where you heard it first. It's all here.
Yeah, first of all, it's deep sleeper. So I like the gusto on that one because that is way off from right field. I don't even think I've heard you ever talk about the guy.
I probably have never. I've never talked about him.
But yeah, that's really interesting. Do you really not like?
I don't like Crowell.
I know, but he's always done pretty well.
I think he's a bum. I don't like him.
Okay, all right.
I don't think he's any good.
He averaged 4.8 yards a carry last year.
I don't care. That was off. Like he had a couple big runs. He's a bum. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I get that.
I haven't been. I thought he was overrated last year when people were in the drafts, or 2 years ago. 2 years ago is when he was really overrated. I never bought into it. Last year I started to like him a little bit because he was underrated, but then he had a couple big runs and a couple big games, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's ranking up at the top again." But no, I don't like him. Chris Warren's better.
Yeah, Chris Warren's a big boy, so
he is right now. He's right now. They're saying he's about 270, so he needs to lose a little bit of weight. He's gotten. I guess if he did have knee surgery, he got a little bit.
I mean, that's a good point.
Out there,
you can't move around. But man, that'd be like the fridge coming back.
Yeah,
like it'd be a whole lot of fun if he actually could run at that weight.
He'll get himself back in shape. Don't worry. He will. He'll be fine. If he can become what his dad was great. His dad was a 3-time Pro Bowler, great player, ran for almost 8,000 career yards. So we'll see what he can do. But all right, that's it for Deep Sleepers. We'll be back next week. I think we'll do a little draft preview. Come out then probably have an episode come out Wednesday next week. Drafts, I believe, next Thursday already. First round draft is Thursday. So we'll do a little preview next week. In 2 weeks, then we'll talk about where the players actually went. And there's no Saquon Barkley this year, anything like that. But so it's all going to depend on, especially running backs and where they actually go. So we'll talk about what we think about, who the best players are next week. Talk to you guys then.